Hello and welcome to a $2,000 buy-in fantasy football draft. My name is Adam Levitan, joined by Drew Dinkmeyer and Sam Sherman. We are from EstablishTheRun.com. This is a FFPC Main Event draft. What that means is we're going to play in a league of 12 people. The 12 people that we're playing against here tonight, if we're able to emerge from our league, we'll be playing in a playoff-style bracket for $1 million up top. Very exciting times. Drew Dinkmeyer here. How's it going today, buddy?
It's going well. We did have some technical challenges here because we thought we were hiding the queue with your draft board, but upon refresh here, the queue is wide open again.
Okay.
So
I'm going to tech lord us back to the draft board screen then. 1 second.
But yeah, I'm doing great. This will be my 445th draft of the summer. So I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yes, Drew is on full-blown Team No Sex, been drafting all summer. We do have the 12th pick here. We do have some time to talk. This draft is live and happening right now. Justin Jefferson goes number 1. Eckler, a surprise there, 2. Kelsey, 3. Note this is tight end premium. In other words, instead of a full point PPR like you get for everyone else, tight ends get 1.5 points for each of their receptions. A little surprised here to see Eckler and Kelsey 2 and 3. Certainly the Eckler pick. Anyways, Sam, how's it going tonight?
I'm doing great. This is my first. I don't think I'm quite up to 450 or whatever you said, Dink, but I've got 300 plus best ball drafts under my belt, so I'm excited for my first managed draft tonight. It's a different strategy, different draft board here on FFPC, so it'll be exciting to think through it here.
Yeah, all three of us have been mostly doing best ball drafts. Obviously, we're getting into redraft season, which is why we wanted to do a redraft here for you guys, talk through some of the strategy. As we move along here, we'll certainly touch on the differences between best ball and redraft. I think there's some pretty clear ones here. At the beginning, though, we're certainly in micro take land, and I think that's pretty similar for best ball and managed leagues here. Eckler at 2 is one we should talk about right away, because Austin Eckler typically goes, I think, in the 6, 7, 8, 9 range in almost all drafts. Eckler does not go 2 very often. I would personally prefer Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce over Austin Eckler, especially with all the weapons that the Chargers are coming into this year with, and Keenan Allen being healthy. I certainly have no problem with Austin Eckler. Just strikes me as pretty high. Dink, have you even seen Eckler go 2 at all in your 400?
This is a first. This is a first for me. I've not seen Eckler go 2. I've seen Eckler go as high as 4 or 5 on FFPC. Another note we should make is that the starting lineup requirements require just 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, and then 2 flex spots. So there's some advantages to being a little bit more running back or tight end heavy compared to some of the other sites that you're accustomed to drafting, where you're required to start 3 wide receivers. Even with that, in our rankings, I think we bump Eckler up around 5. I think he jumps the Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill range a little bit on this format, but no, I've not seen 2. 2 is
on Cooper Kupp, I he had the slight injury. I think people at this time of year freak out. They don't realize, I'm excited for football too. Season doesn't start for another month, and Cooper Kupp is currently listed as day-to-day. I would not let him fall this far. Anyways, it's getting close to our pick here, Sam. We are at the 12-13 turn. We have seen Bijan go. We have seen CMC go. We have seen Eckler go. We have not seen Mark Andrews go yet here. Sam, any thoughts? Typically what you like to do at this 12-13 spot?
Yeah. I think here with the full PPR, we're going to have a choice between 2 wide receivers we like a lot. We were talking a little bit pre-show. I think the choice here for us is if we pivot, with Bijan, McCaffrey, and Eckler all off the board. I think those are the 3 running backs we would have considered if they somehow made it back to us. But I think now we're kind of thinking between wide receiver and tight end. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I have a tough time choosing between this group of wide receivers. They're all kind of in a similar tier for me. We'll see who falls to us.
Yeah, I thought in full PPR, a really interesting start in full PPR is Amon-Ra and CeeDee Lamb. I think they both are really good bets to reach 100 catches this year, and they play each other in week 17. We are on the clock as we speak here. CeeDee Lamb is still available to us, as is Devontae Adams. Dink, what are you thinking here at the 12-13 spot?
Yeah, I think, For me, it's a 3-horse race between Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Mark Andrews. I think a lot of people would put Garrett Wilson in that conversation, which is fine. But I think those are ultimately the guys that we're choosing between.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be definitely CD, and then it would either be Mark Andrews or Wilson or Waddle. Those would be the ones.
Not Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I would throw Devontae Adams in the mix too. I think I slightly prefer CD to Devontae Adams, though. Sam, any thoughts?
Yeah, there? I think I like CD the best out of that group. So if we all feel good about him, maybe
I'll take CD. I'll draft CD when the timer's about to go here.
Yeah, and then for the second one, I think if it's up to me, I would probably go Devontae here. But man, I guess if we're playing like the ADP game and with our portfolio, I do think there is risk of Devontae slipping a little bit with the reports in Las Vegas with Jimmy G being so bad. So,
dude. No portfolio, Sam. We're winning this. I'm not doing a million FFPC 2Ks. No portfolio.
Then in that case, I mean, I like Devontae Adams here. He'd be my pick.
My concern on Devontae is total team implosion. Like them just completely going off the rails. Josh Jacobs doesn't show up. The defense is a disaster. Jimmy G sucks. Dink, any thoughts on Devontae versus Mark Andrews? I think is the decision.
I don't mind taking Andrews here because I think the tight end window we're going to get is pretty limited. So that's the biggest, like we can, if we want to build a super team, we need elite tight end. Yes. And this is our only shot at getting it. I think.
I like it because I like Andrews because I think we can get Lamar Jackson at 3-4. Maybe we can't now that we're saying this on stream, but that would be my thought.
And the thing is too, we were talking about this before and not to give too much away, but I think the EDR ranks are going to push us in the direction of wide receiver in a lot of places tonight. So maybe in a vacuum, Devontae or Wilson is a better pick than Andrews there. But man, we're going to get cracks at a lot of wide receivers we like later. I don't think we're going to get cracks at a lot of tight ends we like later. So if we're on the fence there, I kind of like that decision.
Yeah, and again, for people who have never played on FFPC, again, tight end premium. Every time Mark Andrews catches a ball, we don't just get 1 point, we get 1.5 points. All right. We're off and running here. CeeDee Lamb, Mark Andrews. I like to start. Devontae Adams does go right after us to the guy who took AJ Brown there. While you guys are here, please hit the subscribe button. We'll have plenty more live stream drafts, high stakes drafts. Also, if anybody listens to the podcast, which I hope that you do, just search Establish the Run anywhere podcasts are found. Also here on YouTube, though, we do have content that is exclusive to YouTube. Check that out. One more thing here. Look what we did. We created a banner and we have our own QR code. I mean, we are tech lording hard here. We have our own QR code. You can barely see Sam. It doesn't matter because all we care about is that you use the QR code to head and check out details about our draft kit. We have rankings up for 24 different formats right now. Draft Kit Pro does cover best ball, dynasty, and redraft. All right. You see Nick Chubb there. I saw some people clamoring for us to take Nick Chubb at 12 or 13 overall. I absolutely love Nick Chubb. It is a much tougher sell, obviously, in full PPR than it is in half. I still love Nick Chubb. I would put him right in the same tier as Saquon and Tony Pollard, who I assume are both going to go pretty high here. Dink, any thoughts on Nick Chubb in full PPR? How have you been handling the Nick Chubb rise in ADP?
He's probably one of the players that I have a bigger fade position on than anybody else this year because of that. I'm playing on FFPC. I'm playing on DraftKings. These are full PPR sites. On Underdog, I think there's a more appropriate price tag on that. If I'm going to get exposure to Chubb, it's probably going to come more so on Underdog this year. But it's just it's the challenge and the nature of the scoring system. There's obviously some positive commentary from the running back coach about his ability to handle that role, but there's been some conflicting commentary from the front office in terms of what they've done in the past with Kareem Hunt in that role, what they've talked about with Jerome Ford in that role. So I'm one of these guys that when it comes to running backs and pass catching, like you got to show me it on the field, not in the hype columns. And because we get it in all different forms with running backs, we get them, they're going to get split out wide. They're going to all these different things. I got to see it on the field for me to believe it. So if I get beat by Nick Chubb having, a nuclear season this year, so be it. If he ends up being on par from a pass catching perspective as even, I wouldn't say on par with Barkley or Pollard or CMC or Eckler, but on par with I don't know, even the next tier of running backs, the Jacobs, the Taylors, like that, he still needs to climb to get to that tier. Then obviously he's got potential to really, really go nuclear. But I'm gonna make people, make him show me it on the field.
Yeah. I think he can get there without even a big bump in pass catching, just on outrageous, like 320 carries at 5.5 yards per carry and a massive touchdown rate. I still think he can get there, even if the pass catching doesn't improve. Sam, I wanted to talk about where our favorite spot to draft is. My experience so far has been drafting somewhere between 3 and 8 has been my favorite, because I do think that there is a teardrop after pick 8. And also look at these guys that go in the middle of round 2. I mean, if I can get Saquon, Pollard, Waddle. You see JT, despite all of the concerns around him right now, go pretty high. But there's a lot of guys that I like coming back in round 2, and I can mix and match there really nicely. So my favorite has been 1 through 8 or 3 through 8, ideally. Any thoughts on your favorite spot to draft this year, Sam?
Yeah, I really liked the start of the draft season. I really liked the first couple spots, because then, at least on half PPR sites, you were having guys like Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, all available in the early 3rd round, which I thought was ridiculous at the time. Now, some of those guys, Jacobs, Taylor, even concerns have emerged, and maybe you're not getting as big of a win as you thought. But I really like that early. I think now I'm with you. Getting a sort of a pick in the 3 through 5 range, I think you still get a really solid 2nd round pick before some of the fears start to set in the early 3rd of some of these holdout situations. Some of these wide receivers like T. Higgins, who maybe don't have the upside in my mind to justify a 2nd round pick. So I'm kind of with you. I like that early mid 3rd round 3 to 5 range. I think the best.
Yeah, this JT stuff has been really tough. Again, we're recording this on Sunday, August 6th. JT is in an all-out war with Jim Irsay and the Colts management. There's also video out there of Jonathan Taylor not looking so good walking around, as he claims to have a back issue, though everyone assumes that's fake, and it's all about the contract. So I don't know, man. I personally couldn't pull the trigger right there at Jonathan Taylor at 2.8, but I get it. I mean, I get it. But I've seen him go way, 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 way later.
Yeah. I think the thing with Taylor, right, is like, even before this holdout stuff, and maybe for a second, throw out the holdout, throw out the potential ankle or back injury, pretend that doesn't exist. I think there's still concerns with Taylor as a mid 2nd round pick in PPR leagues. I think, we just talked about it with Chubb. I mean, how is Taylor getting there from a pass catching perspective with a rookie quarterback who scrambles a bunch? They're probably going to be, really low in pass rate unless, they do something that we're not quite expecting. So I think Taylor had concerns in that range even before this stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't be taking him there. I do understand the upside, but to me, there's too many risks at that range of the draft.
All right, we see a bit of a quarterback run. I want to be clear about the scoring system here. 1 point for every 20 yards passing. A lot of sites are 1 point for every 25 yards passing. So quarterbacks who can throw for a lot of yards here, like Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, are worth even more than usual. We're doing a podcast this week. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Again, it is free, Establish the Run, anywhere you can find a podcast. Doing a bunch of quarterback stuff on the podcast this week, because we are seeing quarterbacks go outrageously high. Dink, how have you been reacting to quarterbacks now? Whereas, God, when I first started doing this, it was like I would never take quarterback before round 8 or 9. And now, because of the way the game has changed, because of the consistency these guys have at an elite level, I actually think it's okay in round 3. Round 2 is still a bit steep for me.
Yeah, I think round 3 is certainly viable with the ability that some of these guys have to really separate from the competition. It used to be a position that you were able to stream and kind of make up the production just by playing matchups and picking guys off waivers. And it's just much, much more difficult to do when Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, they have these kind of nuclear ceilings, Lamar Jackson as well, for the rushing and the passing components. So 3rd round, I'm fairly comfortable. It also is a different conversation between like best ball and managed and different things there. Best ball, it depends on how many roster spots you're able to get. Like if you're playing on a 20-round league format, I'm a little bit less excited about early quarterback, because I know I can have 3 quarterbacks on my team that I can build and rotate scorers. Managed leagues, you're not going to draft 3 quarterbacks, right? We've got 20 rounds in this draft. We have to take kickers and defense as well. You're going to draft 1, maybe 2, and then you're going to rely on the waiver wire to work your way through. So depends a little bit on league format, but generally understand why the price has risen on quarterbacks. Whereas when they were going, 10 years ago in the 2nd and 3rd round, it was the easiest fade in the world. But where they're at now with the rushing capability and the nuclear ceiling, it's more justified.
Yeah. So obviously we like to lean elite wide receiver where we can. It changes things a bit in FFPC because you only have to start 2 of them. However, there are 2 flex spots, and it is full PPR. Keenan Allen is still out there. Calvin Ridley is still out there. Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf are all. Oh, there goes DK Metcalf. Never mind. Are all out there. And then, you start to get the slips on the guys that people are worried about. Josh Jacobs, people are worried about the holdout. Is he going to show up? You see him go at 3.8. And then obviously you have the Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook rumors plus the ACL. Sam, we're on the clock here in very shortly. Any thoughts here on our pick at the 3-4?
Yeah. I think there's one, running back I think we like a lot here that I don't want to mention. And also we already talked about it, so I can mention it. Lamar coming back here is certainly interesting. We'll see if the player in the 11 hole snipes us. I don't know though. It's, I think there's a lot of different directions we can go. Some of the wide receiver value has gotten wiped out, but there's still a couple of targets we have there. Let's see.
On the quarterback conversation, like in a managed league, I would probably, in most managed leagues, if I get someone elite, I'm probably only taking one, and then we'll just work if something happens to our one quarterback, we just work the waiver wire, we stream it in, and it'll probably be okay. But yeah, we'd be making a big bet here. Oh my God, he was watching.
That's fine by me. Honestly, I think there's like a lot of great players here. The 3 players, for me, there's 3 clear options, and we take 2 of them. It's Breece Hall, Keenan Allen, and Deebo Samuel. Those are the 3 clear options to me. I think you probably take Breece for one of the picks and then debate the wide receivers. It's like, the steady PPR old veteran versus the guy who might be one of the best football players in the entire league, but plays in an offense that is spreading things out.
My Breece take is like they were in no rush to sign Dalvin because Dalvin wanted too much money and too much of a role, and they know how good Breece is, and they think Breece is reasonably close. And to be clear, like early season projectable volume is not overly valuable with Breece, and so I would be totally fine with Breece here. Sam, what do you think about Breece here at the 3-4 turn?
Breece is the guy who I didn't want to say his name in fear to get sniped. He's the one who I think we should lock in here and then have the conversation on the wide receivers. So you're saying you think it's Deebo or Keenan?
Those would be the 2 guys to me. Yeah. I mean, you could throw Amari Cooper in there, but I feel like Deebo and Keenan are a little bit stronger than Amari.
So I want to make bets on Chargers offense this year. I think it's going to be awesome. Like I think they're going to fully unlock Justin Herbert. You just can't deny that Eckler healthy, Quentin Johnston there, obviously Big Mike with a big role. There's not as much volume for Keenan available, but the guy is incredible at earning targets. My lean would be Keenan over Deebo slightly, but I don't feel too strongly about it.
Yeah, I think I slightly go in the opposite direction, but just worried with the age model with Keenan a little bit. He didn't drop off last year, but man.
All right, Dink, you got a tiebreak at 10 seconds.
Deebo, man.
Oh my God.
Guy might be the best player. Guy might be one of the best players in football.
He is sending shirtless pics to Kyle Shanahan.
So we have a shirtless pics narrative. If Keenan had a picture with his shirt off, we would have taken him. I had a massive fade on Deebo last year. Like people thought I was crazy, just completely out on Deebo, just on insane efficiency concerns. Somewhere between that insane efficiency he had in 2021 and the regression he saw in 2022 on both injuries and efficiency, I think this is about right where he goes. Like, I don't think I'm win million in at 4.1 on Deebo Samuel. I just think this is like right for him at this point. So yeah.
Yeah. And I look, I think Keenan would have been a fine pick there too. I'm over the field on both of those guys in my exposure so far. I just think like if you're playing for upside in these like really big field tournaments, there's one guy that we've seen post a season that is nuclear. And for Keenan to do anything like that, we're betting on a ton of volume and his health. And I'd rather just take the shot on the guy who we've already seen have the nuclear season.
Yes. Shout out to Josh Brady, helps us a ton behind the scenes. He says he's tilting the Lamar snipe and it's not even his team. Stay calm, Brady. We're going to be fine here. Dink is not worried whatsoever. Plenty of good quarterbacks, especially in a managed league. Like there's so many good quarterbacks. And we're not, obviously if we were taking this massively seriously, we wouldn't talk about any players that we like, but I would throw out quarterbacks that I like later. Two of my favorites would be Geno Smith and Tua Tagovailoa. So yeah, those would be like guys that I'm very comfortable with waiting on, and I think we can get them decently later here in this draft.
And I think too with the go ahead.
I was just gonna say, while I would love to stack, like stacking is still useful in managed leagues and still really helpful. It's more useful in best ball formats in terms of like generating that weekly correlation and upside. Certainly, I would love to stack if the right stack comes our way, but I'm not feeling as much like we need to force a stack than I would on best ball type situations. This way, like we can maneuver things during the course of the year to increase correlation and whatnot.
Yeah. You see team 8 here starting with Cooper Kupp at 8, which I thought was great value, but then going RB. That is a difficult strategy, I think, for me to personally execute, because what happens is he's going to be so far behind at the wide receiver position. Obviously, running back has the highest rate of injuries and replaceability. And so, we're going to, I think, end out here playing a more hero RB style or less running backs than that, and trying to hit on guys in rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, and then also on the waiver wire at running back. And you see some other teams trying to execute that along with us. Team 11 here might actually be an ETR listener. He might actually be listening right now. I don't know if you leftovers 4, if you're in chat, identify yourself, because this is very close to what I think I would have done. Probably not Lamar naked there, but it's probably close to what I would have done at the 11th spot.
You would have taken Brees before Lamar, right?
Yeah, unstacked Lamar, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would have done that too.
Yes. All right, as we move along here, DeAndre Hopkins goes in the middle of round 4. I still think that the differences between best ball and managed at this point are relatively non-existent. I don't know, Sam, would you think there's anything different right now about how you would handle managed? We already talked about the stacking thing, managed versus best ball a little bit. Anything else on managed versus best ball this early in the draft?
Yeah, this early, I don't think there's a huge difference in how I would rank players. I think, and you're talking the first 5, 6 rounds, all these players have some kind of floor. So at which point in both managed and best ball, I think you're kind of, shooting for ceiling players. I think where that, the difference where you really care about ceiling, that shows itself more in the later rounds where, I'll take like a flyer on someone like Justin Ross much earlier in a redraft format than I would in best ball, because, if he doesn't make the team, I can cut him. Doesn't really matter. Whereas in best ball, I'm kind of, shying away from the players that I think can be complete zeros. So that's where I think the difference is. This early on, I don't think there's a huge difference. Maybe the quarterbacks should go slightly later, but I think that's maybe the only thing that I'm noticing a huge difference with.
And by the way, we got Breece Hall just, 8 picks before Aaron Jones. I don't think Aaron Jones ever sees the volume to finish as a top 5 player this year if Breece Hall's knee is right and they don't sign Dalvin Cook, which right now does not look like it's close. I mean, Breece Hall can finish among the top 5 players in all of fantasy. So, obviously there's risk with Breece Hall with the knee, with Dalvin and everything, but I think from a ceiling perspective, it makes a ton of sense. DJ Moore has been a pass for me. I think I have 0 DJ Moore here. He goes in round 4. I'm just not buying the Justin Fields is going to turn into Jalen Hurts as a thrower this year. There goes Amari Cooper as well. I think Team 4 might have week 17 brain. For you guys who don't know what I'm referring to, the week 17 stacking. Obviously, week 17 is important in this format. $1 million will be decided in week 17. And so the Chiefs and the Bengals play each other. So a lot of these starts in best ball include Mahomes, Higgins, Chase, or Burrow, Higgins, Chase, or all kinds of combinations of Chiefs and Bengals players to try to get the correlation in that game. I don't know in this managed format that I would emphasize that much. I don't know, Dink, what do you think about the week 17 stuff in this format?
I think it's useful as tiebreaker stuff. But again, you have more control on a managed league. Obviously there's no trades, so you don't have that option. But you have more control with the waiver wire and different things to potentially set things up as the season goes on. So it's more of a tiebreaker situation for me. It's not something I'm like actively trying to go out of my way to build out. And just so people know in chat, because I see some people talking about team 3 that took 2 tight ends in the first 3 rounds. You can play up to 3 tight ends every week because you have 2 flex spots and a tight end spot. So that it's just like taking a wide receiver there. It's the same effect for the player, but they get the tight end premium scoring. Miles Sanders round 5. How are you feeling about that?
Oh, yes. We are releasing a staff sleepers and busts article. I think it actually might be up on the site right now. And a little teaser, my bust was Miles Sanders, just, I think, massively inflated season by Eagles' overall offensive environment last year. And I'm worried about the Panthers' offensive environment this year. And so, yeah, that would not be a pick for me. You see the tight end premium stuff rearing its head here with Kyle Pitts in round 5 and George Kittle in round 5. The Pitts stuff, man, I mean, he's still, that torn MCL in like November of last year still has a brace on, still doesn't look like he's participating fully. And you have Arthur Smith, who just hates fun. Arthur Smith doesn't care where you were drafted, how athletic you are. So Pitts one is scary. But yeah, you see a lot of purple coming through here. Pitts, Kittle, Goddard all off the board here in round 5. It's always hard, I think, for people to adjust to tight end premium. Sam, what do you think about all these tight ends coming off the board here in rounds 4 and 5? Waller, Pitts, Kittle, and Goddard all gone now.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people make that bet, because these players, especially like on a weekly upside basis, these tight ends do have the potential to put up really huge weekly scores with the tight end premium scoring. But in my opinion, how I played these in the past is I kind of want to get like the elite of the elite. I think for me this year, that's probably Kelsey, Andrews, and Hawkinson. And then at the prices that Waller, Pitts, Kittle, Goddard are going, I'm inclined just to pass on those guys and try to play it with tight ends I can get later on. It feels, risky doing that strategy in tight end premium. You might feel naked at tight end, but man, some of the wide receivers going near, Kittle and Pitts, you can get Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin. I'd much prefer those guys to those tight ends at this point. I'm not super into those tight ends this year.
Yeah. And I would agree with Sam that typically it's either elite or try to make it up with volume. For me, like 3 guys a little bit dusty later at the tight end position who I think have upside. Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta, the rookies certainly sound good right now. And Njoku, I think, is set up well. Higbee is going to see volume. We are 6 spots away from our pick here at the 5-6 turn. Dink, I think we're still in a position to take best player available. What are your thoughts on strategy here at the 5-6 turn?
Really balanced roster so far. So I feel like we definitely have that. I also will note quarterbacks are going to, some unusual quarterback names are going to slide in this draft because of who has been taken early. Like the Chase and Higgins draft are taking Mahomes. Burrow's going to slide. He might slide all the way back to us, which would be a decision point to consider. But when you see some of these guys, when there's weird stack pairings happen, weird things can happen. Like Tyreek Hill, that drafter taking Justin Herbert. I'm already like mentally noting, okay, like let's keep an eye on the Waddle drafter and when they take a quarterback, because that might allow Tua to drop. And again, because I'm not as concerned about stacking, there might be a quarterback value that happens for us. But certainly starting 2 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end, that allows us a lot of flexibility to maneuver around here. I also would note our tight end strategy of taking Mark Andrews there was because we knew the board. We knew the board, it leans with ADP tight end heavy towards the front half of the draft. And so our one shot at getting elite tight end was that pick, and that's played out exactly how we expected.
Yeah, for sure. You see Drake London, Big Mike Williams go off the board here in the middle of the 5th. Sam, any thoughts on strategy here as we turn to the 5-6 turn?
Yeah, I think we'll likely be in a range where we want to keep loading up at wide receiver. I think, if you're shooting for upside like we are in this format, I think the really true upside at wide receiver does sort of die out at a certain point, maybe 10th, 11th, 12th round. So getting some more shots on goal at wide receiver in the next couple of rounds definitely makes sense. I think we're pretty well covered at tight end and running back and can sort of let quarterback fall to us. But yeah, we'll see who falls to us. I do think that at least 1 wide receiver here is probably the strategy that we're going to want to go with here.
Yeah. And so teammate, you see this sometimes on FFPC. You get some of these guys on FFPC who really love to take running backs. You see teammate here with Saquon, Jacobs, Harris, and Madison. So yeah, there goes Brandon Ayuk. I'll be talking to Silva about Ayuk tomorrow on the podcast. He recently bumped him up in the rankings. We are 3 picks away now. Joe Burrow. Oh, there goes Joe Burrow. I was just going to say Joe Burrow would be my bet to come back for week 1. So yeah, there goes Joe Burrow.
Burrow would have been interesting there.
Yeah. So wide receivers, and I know that Team 9 is listening to us. He identified himself. I'm sorry, Team 11 is listening to us. He identified himself in chat. So I'm not going to say any specific names here, but there's certainly some wide receivers that I think we can certainly take. We're not going to say anything more, Team 11. I know you're in chat, Team 11. I'm not going to say anything more.
I'm not saying anything else.
So I believe Christian
Deontay
Kirk
Johnson is the pick.
He takes Deontay Johnson. Yep. I believe Christian Kirk is available. Dink, what would you consider our options here?
Christian Kirk, Kenneth Walker, Chris Godwin, Marquise Brown, Jackson Smith-Njigba, those types of names. It would be Fields. Walker. It would be Kirk and Kenneth Walker for me. Fields, again, the scoring system not super conducive to Fields with the 20 yards per point instead of 25 yards, but certainly draftable if you want a lead option. I would probably vote Kirk and Kenneth Walker here would probably be my votes.
I would definitely be Kirk for me as one of them. I think we need to keep establishing wide receiver dominance. So if Sam's okay with it, I think Kirk would be one of them.
I'm good with Kirk. Walker is like a 10-ish pick slide based on ADP, which I think is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. What do we think about this groin injury? I guess that's the only concern with Walker, right? Otherwise, I definitely would love him here. But
okay, I think what groin is going to be totally fine on Kenneth Walker. It's a month out. They're basically saying they're just being precautionary. I know Charbonnet already got back in practice, but yeah, I think Walker will be totally fine. And I really like him. Even if he loses the pass down work to Charbonnet, I want to have bets on Seattle's offense, and Walker can just break slates. Like I prefer Walker to Madison and Sanders by a mile. I mean, by an absolute mile.
I prefer him to like Aaron Jones, who went in the mid-4th. So,
I think this is a great value with Kenneth Walker in the 6th round.
Fist pump it in with Kenneth Walker.
We're doing it.
I love it. Let's go.
All right. 2 running backs for us through.
Told you guys not to worry about running backs. We'd get running backs. I told you.
You were right.
We have Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. Now through 6 rounds, we also have 3 wide receivers and 1 quarterback. We do not have a tight end. Yeah, David makes a good point. Kenneth Walker's bread was never buttered on passing work. It's explosive plays and long touchdowns. Yes, Kenneth Walker is a boom bust type runner. Some people view that as a negative. I kind of view it as a positive. I want my running backs to be able to have slate breaking weeks, period. Like this is a head-to-head matchup, just like your normal home league. And like, we want to be able to win the week when Kenneth Walker absolutely goes off.
Yeah. I think his profile's been nitpicked a lot this year. I know people really focus on the short yardage success rate with him, but man, other people have broken it down. A lot of his short yardage stuff last year was just the offensive line completely collapsing in front of him. I guess I'm just not that worried about that with Kenneth Walker. He had one of the most amazing rushing profiles of a college prospect that we've seen in a while. I'm not worried at all about that short yardage FUD for Kenneth Walker. I think he's a smash in the 6th, just given his talent.
So Ian says, I know teammate, he's actually pretty sharp. Ian also has his wedding picture there. Congrats on the sex. I did want to make a point that just because somebody does stuff that we don't agree with does not mean that they are not actually sharp. People try different things all the time. Sharp people try different things. I know Dan Zach, who was engaged in a bitter head-to-head best ball bet against Herzig, has been pushing a lot of 4 tight end stuff, which I don't agree with for the most part, but he's a very, very sharp guy, and he's been trying to execute that. So, yeah, I don't want to say that just because somebody's doing stuff we don't agree with means that they aren't a sharp person. I'm sure if this guy is sharp, he does have some strategy in mind here.
Yeah. And to give him credit, right? Like we talked about this, you can start 4 running backs in a lot of formats. DraftKings, you can only start 3. Underdog, you can only start 3. Like if this works out, it is in some ways a high upside strategy. Like if you land 4 bell cow running backs, I think all 4 of these guys at least do have the potential. Like I see how it works out. It wouldn't be my preferred strategy, but it's not. I don't think it's completely burning your money, right? Like this does have a path, but it's a little riskier than I would play it.
Exactly. And Jason notes the double flex makes massive difference. I mean, you can do all kinds of things on FFPC because it's tight end premium and because there's 2 flex spots. I actually think it's an interesting format for people in home leagues. Like I think having 2 flexes in your home league makes it really, really interesting. And if you wanted to balance it, having 1.5 points for tight end makes it interesting. And honestly, I would never be able to convince my friends from home to do this in our home league, but I think Superflex is like a way to make leagues more interesting. Also, and we'll have a couple of podcasts on that later this week. Before we move on, hit the QR code. I mean, we went to such lengths. We've been tech lording for weeks to get this QR code set up. You guys have no idea what we've been going through. Please use it. 2023 draft kit is on sale now. If you plan to play DFS this year, the early bird bundle price will be going up on Friday. I repeat, the early bird bundle price will be going up on Friday. The bundle combines our Draft Kit Pro with our in-season package. In-season package mostly focuses on DFS and redraft, but we'll also have Dynasty stuff in there as well. All right. Cam Akers off the board. J.K. Dobbins. The Dobbins stuff has been interesting. I'm almost certain that he's on quote-unquote PUP because he's pissed about his contract. And maybe he has some slight injury to knee or hamstring or whatever it is. But he's like, man, why do I need to come out here? I got hurt in the preseason. It messed up my entire career before. I'll just sit this one out. He's been spotted on the sidelines, like, you know, laughing with the owner and the GM and stuff. I don't think there's some embroiled, bitter thing. And I don't think there's a new injury going on with J.K. Dobbins. If you're worried about last year's injury, I hear you. You can listen to Stefania Bell on that a little bit on the podcast we did last week with her. But yeah, I think J.K. Dobbins is fine value here at 6.7. You know, it's certainly not my favorite pick, but I think there's been a little bit of FUD around the J.K. Dobbins stuff. James Conner,
he's been falling a lot.
Yeah, I can't do the James Conner thing.
I mean, look at the running backs that went in this round when we got Kenneth Walker. There's maybe Cam Akers could have that kind of nuclear ceiling. We saw it down the stretch last year, but this is a whole different breed of running backs that we were able to get in front of here.
Yeah, exactly. The James Conner pick, man, given how bad this team is going to be and James Conner's history and the workload they're preparing him for, if James Conner is alive for the fantasy playoffs, I will be like shocked. And that, you know, I understand he's going to come out of the gate in September and, you know, get 20, 25 touches. He'll probably do well. It's hard for me to see James Conner lasting the whole year. And that's why it's a tough pick for me. Michael Pittman, also a tough pick for me. I don't think he's like some exceptional kind of wide receiver. And we obviously have major concerns about Anthony Richardson as a thrower. Rashad White's been getting a lot of buzz from the spreadsheet socialist lately. Sam, any thoughts on these recent few picks here?
Yeah. Like Dink said, I think the differences in talent at running back are pretty comical here when we're getting Kenneth Walker and folks are drafting, you know, 28-year-old James Conner, Rashad White, who by many metrics was like the worst running back in the league last year, and we're getting Kenneth Walker. So that's pretty exciting to me. And back to your question about best ball versus redraft, I think now is like maybe where I start to make that distinction a little bit more. Pittman is someone who I'm actually okay with. I'm not like massively overweight, but in best ball, I think I'm okay with it because I see how he can be really volatile with Richardson. You know, Richardson's a good deep thrower if what he did at Florida translates to the NFL. And I think Pittman could have some big spike weeks, but on a week-to-week basis, I think you're going to be sweating putting Michael Pittman in your redraft starting lineup. Yeah. Like it could get really ugly some weeks. So that's one that I think is interesting to think through from that best ball versus redraft perspective.
I like that. David says that he's 80% sure John Harbaugh was at the urinal next to him at the Bellagio 2 months ago. I'm not sure what that is implying, David, but yes, we are aware that Harbaugh does have to urinate. Joe says, isn't the bundle already out? Yes, the bundle's already been out. We are threatening now that the price is going up, Joe. So you already got the best prices. Price is going up on Friday. All right. Marquise Brown goes, oh, the Javonte Williams stuff. We should talk about this, man. I get it. he looks like it's going to be some miracle. He's the next Adrian Peterson. I just like to bet against outliers, and so I get the upside for Javonte Williams. It's not a pick I think I'm personally going to make, and maybe that sounds contradictory because we took Breece Hall at the end of round 3, and I like that. It's just the kind of injury Javonte Williams had, and questions about Broncos offense and Samaje Perine being a good player. It's just hard for me with Javonte Williams, but man, right now it looks like he's going to shove it down my throat because all the news on Javonte Williams' knee is so positive. Joey says Javonte is just him.
I actually, I mean, I hope so for the people that are taking him, because you're starting to need him to be him. When we're talking like 7th round, 6th round price tags that he's going to start to jump up to. And I actually think him playing in preseason is bad. I don't want him playing in preseason if I'm like, I get the idea that, okay, he's healthy enough, but that shows like, you could look at it 2 ways. You could say, oh, he's so healthy that they're so confident. Or you could say like, why are they risking this? Like, what's the rush? What's the point of getting him game action right now? And we've also seen that one of their first acquisitions in the Sean Payton era was Samaje Perine. We've seen a lot of 2 running back systems from them consistently. Like, I don't think Javonte Williams is going to be used the way Javonte Williams was on pace to being used in the pre-Sean Payton era. So I get some of the Javonte Williams buzz of late. It sounds like there's good reasons to be optimistic on the health, but man, I don't want to see him out there in the preseason if I'm drafting Javonte Williams right now. Like, all I can think of is just re-injury risk and just like the body not being as ready as he wants it to be. And then we're dealing with like hamstring strains and different things.
Exactly.
And that makes me nervous on Javonte.
It's easy to say that the knee feels great right now. Let's see how it feels after he takes a bunch of hits and he runs a bunch. I hate this Dalvin Cook pick here. Sorry to Stormtroopers too here, but Dalvin Cook, like, injury history, may still be a little bit banged up right now. Who knows what kind of team or deal he's going to land on. I thought this Evan Ingram was great value. Like, I don't think there's a big difference between Evan Ingram and Kyle Pitts. Like, there's not a huge difference to me. I don't think to get him 2+ rounds later, I think it's a pretty good deal there on Evan Ingram. All right. It is approaching our turn here. There goes Trevor Lawrence. It is approaching our turn here. We do not have a quarterback yet, which I'm totally fine with. We have 2 running backs. We have 3 wide receivers and a tight end at the 7-8 turn. Sam, any thoughts on overall strategy here for our pick at 7-8?
Yeah, I think so. With Lawrence going, I think he is one we definitely would have considered with Kirk on our roster. With him going, I'm not sure there's a quarterback that I really like a ton here at our turn. And I think we're also going to get the dynamic where there's only 3 teams now without a quarterback. It's us and the team in the 7 and 8 hole. So teams, again, difference from best ball, teams are not going to be taking their backup quarterbacks. Oh yeah, sorry. Team 3 also doesn't have a quarterback, but anyways, teams are not going to be taking backup quarterbacks early like they might in best ball. So I think there is a point here where you see quarterbacks like slide really late and past ADP because someone just doesn't want to take a backup. So I'm okay waiting it out there. I think continuing to attack some wide receivers here probably makes sense. Curious what you guys think though.
Yeah. Just quickly on Kamara. Yeah. Kamara's got a 3-game suspension. I think round 7 is about right now. Dink, any thoughts on our strategy here at 7-8 turn?
Yeah, I mean, I think the board is still pretty open to us, right? 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end. That's a pretty balanced build. I think we can just take whatever we feel is the best position available. I think because of the tight end premium stuff, there's probably more tight ends in play at this pick than people would normally think. I think there's also going to be some good wide receiver names that come back to us that, are upside wide receiver names that we're going to feel pretty good about. And I think the way that this fell after our pick, all these running backs going kind of cleared out some tiers of running backs that I would have felt good about. So I feel even better about Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall as 2 running backs through the first 6 rounds.
Yeah, certainly some wide receiver options for us here. I do not believe that Tyler Lockett has gone. I don't believe Jordan Addison has gone.
Lockett has gone, I believe.
Lockett has gone, yes.
Lockett went, yeah. Lockett went. Addison has not gone.
Addison has not gone. Traylon Burks has not gone, I believe.
Pickens is still there too.
Pickens.
Elijah Moore, Gabe Davis.
I kind of like wide receiver here. Any thoughts on that?
Oh man, this guy's
Addison
taking
goes.
all of our picks. Addison would have been nice here. I like
So-
Pickens here.
I
don't know what you guys think.
The guys for me would be Freiermuth, Treylon Burks, George Pickens, and then if you want to reach up a little bit to get the Deshaun Watson upside at quarterback, I think he's one of those guys that has the ceiling at the quarterback position. But I think I would definitely take one wide receiver here, and then it's either a second wide receiver that Freiermuth or Watson would be my choices.
Yeah, I like Gabe Davis more than consensus. For me, it would be one of Burks, Pickens, Gabe Davis.
Do we consider Elijah Moore and Watson here? Is that something you guys want to think about, or is that too much for a reach?
That would be a reach for me on Watson, I think.
I think it's a little reachy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we do
which wide receiver?
Pickens? Are we all good with Pickens?
Pickens is fine, yeah.
Pickens is good. Okay. Pickens it is.
Okay.
So the other wide receivers would be Burks.
Burks, Quentin Johnston, right? Brandon Cooks or Gabe Davis?
Yep. Yeah, Burks, Johnston, Cooks, Davis, and then Freiermuth is an option as well at tight end.
Yeah, I think I like one of the wide receivers there. I'm fine with any of those. I've been high on Gabe Davis, but I know he's not good at football and people hate him. I'm fine with Burks or Gabe Davis, I would say.
I would go Burks.
Yeah, I'm good with Burks.
All right.
Okay.
It's a big toss up for me. I do think there is some element with Davis, right, where he's going to be really volatile, and Burks in theory could be more consistent, but maybe that's picking.
Yeah,
I took Treylon.
Picking.
I do think the that last part that you mentioned with Treylon, where if it works for Treylon, it's going to work in a way that you're feeling good starting him every single week. I don't think, even if it works for Gabe, I think it's going to be like you never know what you're going to get. Like I like if Diggs got hurt or something, it's always because he just can only run certain routes. So I think it's always going to be kind of guessing at what you're going to get.
Dink, your mic is lagging pretty hard. I know you're having boomer issues there with tech lording, but I don't know if there's
I'll log out and log back.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything Dink can do.
That was a tough pick because I think I'm with you. Like in best ball, I wouldn't have thought twice of Gabe Davis over Burks there. I like a wide receiver tied to Josh Allen. I think Davis's best weeks are gonna crush, Burks's best weeks potentially. So I wouldn't have thought too much, but I think managed. I think that was the right call.
I think that's totally fine. Let me just give my Gabe Davis take here because I know I didn't want to just brush it off because I know people hate this take. Last year, Gabe Davis sustained a high ankle sprain in week 2. He missed 1 week and was never the same the rest of the season. He said it. The coaches said it. Everyone said it. Then in week 9, Josh Allen suffers an elbow injury, which I think really, it's laid out in the data. Like he really was way worse throwing the ball deep after that. And despite all that, and Gabe Davis had a horrible year. Despite all that, Gabe Davis still finished as the wide receiver 36 in fantasy points per game. This year, he's being drafted as the wide receiver 38, and all they've added is Dalton Kincaid. So, I think the floor is there on Gabe. Like Sam said, though, you're going to take a lot of thin weeks on Gabe Davis, and that's harder to eat and manage than it is in best ball. Let's check your lag here, Dink.
Yeah,
give us
any better?
Yes, you're back.
Yeah, for some reason with StreamYard, sometimes I need to just jump out and then jump back in and fix his lags. I have no idea, but consistent issue.
Yes, we are tech lording hard. Team 11 is listening. Yes, we know Team 11. He's he identified himself. We know he's in here and he's using our rankings. Comes with the territory, is what it is. When we don't win $1 million, we'll just say it's because Team 11 sniped all our picks. That's the only reason. Matt says we could have put it on delay if we were so worried about it. If we actually knew how to tech lord, we could have. However, we don't. So, no.
I do think Freiermuth is a really nice snag for Team 7. I think that is a really good value for a team that needed a tight end.
Yeah, I agree, because that's not, I mean, what is that? Doing the math, that's pick like 90. That's not that much earlier from where he goes in
Right.
non-tight end premium. So that does feel like a pretty big slide there. Yeah, I think we could have justified Freiermuth. I like getting more shots at the breakout wide receivers. I think traditionally tight ends in this range, I do understand. Like, I think Freiermuth is a good pick there. Historically, the tight ends that go in this range are just not great bets. Maybe the math is a little different in tight end premium for that type of research, but these mid-round tight ends are historically just not the picks that you want to load your roster up with.
I also think, like, I mean, in a vacuum, maybe Freiermuth is fine. I didn't want to take two Steelers pass catchers with significant draft capital, 7 and 8. You know, like, it could go real bad there. I think it's going to be okay, but it could go real bad, and that would have been a lot of draft capital on two Steelers pass catchers, in my opinion.
Yeah,
we did unintentionally set up Week 17 though with Pittsburgh and Seattle. So
yeah. That's the best part of Week 17 is like somebody's going to win it doing it unintentionally. They're going to see it was Week 17, so it's going to be unintentional. All right. What team you guys like best so far? John says Team 6 is winning hands down. I have no problem with Team 6. I think Christian Watson and Drake London have been two guys I've kind of been wishy-washy on, especially London, but I like the structure there for sure. James says Team 3 butchered his draft by overvaluing tight end premium. I'm not sure I agree with that. I would look at projections and like our rankings take all this into account. Obviously, like Hawkinson versus McLaurin or Hawkinson versus Amari Cooper is very close. Oh, I'm going the other way. Sorry. Hawkinson versus T. Higgins and Olave, I think might be. Where do we have Hawkinson?
I feel like Hawkinson should outproject T in tight end.
Hawkinson, we have end of round 2 in this format.
Right.
That's worth.
Yeah.
Right. And we have Hawkinson 1 spot below Devontae Smith, 2 spots below Higgins, 4 spots below Olave. So on this format, it's not as crazy as you think. Jason likes Team 11, the ETR team, of course. Team 9. A lot of people like Team 9. JG Call likes Team 1 with the Jalen Hurts stack there.
Professional pronunciation there, by the way. Avoiding
jack off.
Yeah. Maybe not avoiding.
So Rashad Penny's been getting steamed up a lot. I just did a 555 like 2 weeks ago that I wrote up. You can find it on establishedrun.com. And I got Rashad Penny in like round 13. Since then, he has been steaming insanely. I'm not really sure what's changed. We expect him to be the early down back. We expect DeAndre Swift and Kenny Gainwell to be the pass down backs. Not much has changed. I like Rashad Penny, but man, round 8 is getting real steamy there on him. Obviously, Team 1 was feeling the pressure at running back, didn't have any through 6 rounds. But I don't know, Sam, when you try to execute like a 0 RB, sometimes I think the mistakes people make is like capitulating and being like, oh, now I better get some running backs when like you start reaching for guys like maybe some people disagree with me, but Javonte, Penny, Charbonnet, et cetera. So yeah. Do you think he capitulated too early on the 0 RB, Sam?
I think I actually kind of like the strategy of starting to load up at running backs in this range. Maybe it's a little early, but you know, I think at some point you do want to pivot away from the wide receivers early. And I actually do like Charbonnet. I'm really into both Charbonnet and Walker this year. I don't think Charbonnet really is a huge smash unless Walker goes down. But if Walker does go down, I think Charbonnet has awesome upside in that offense. I definitely see Penny having sort of the Miles Sanders path of last year. He's tied to a good offense. Javonte is the pick I don't like, but yeah, I think I actually kind of like the strategy that Team 1 is pulling off here. I think at some point you got to go for the running back values, and I like that strategy.
Yeah, Dave notes that Bully Elite tight end has a high advance rate in this format. No surprise there whatsoever. Dink is getting back to us here at 9-10 turn. We do not have a quarterback yet, but again, in this format, we can try to wait it out. We're one of 4 teams that does not have a quarterback. Dink, any thoughts on strategy here at the 9-10 turn?
Yeah, I think we'll start to get in the range where quarterbacks will, start to make a little bit more sense. If not this turn, definitely the next turn. I think within these next 4 picks, we'll get a quarterback. But yeah, one thing I will note on Team 1, I like their draft quite a bit. I would have flipped Pitts with Goddard and gone for the stack there for Jalen Hurts. I don't think there's that much of a difference between the two players from a projection standpoint. Like, just give me the correlation. In the running backs that they're taking, at least it's like really high ceiling running back options if things really break right. So they're trying to build that like monster team with the already elite wide receivers and QB. But yeah, I think in general, we still have a lot of flexibility with where we can go. The running backs have been getting pushed up quite a bit here. Like, Jamal Williams round 9 in a full PPR format is pricey.
Not for me.
Yeah. So we will see what we're left with at running back. But I feel really good about having Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker as anchor types. And I agree with Sam. I'm in on both Walker and Charbonnet. One thing that I think is a little bit underlooked on Seattle is they're going to play 2 of the worst defenses in all of football twice this year. So a quarter of their games basically are against the Rams and the Cardinals, who are going to be really, really bad on the defensive side of the ball. And they should be playing from ahead in those games and racking up carries because Pete Carroll loves to establish it. Team 7 getting Deshaun Watson there. I think that turn 8-9 for Team 7 makes them very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I like that. I like Team 7. Yeah. I like all from a micro perspective, I like almost all the picks that Team 7 has made just on players. Forget about structural, but I also like all their players they've taken. Also here, I'm not worried about Deshaun Watson going. I'm looking at the quarterback board, and there are so many that I still like so many. I'm not worried about that at all. I still think we don't have to force quarterback here if we don't want to. Sam, any thoughts on our strat here for the 9-10 turn?
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but I think we've given ourselves flexibility to go kind of whatever direction we want. I think there could be some high upside running backs here that we could take a stab at, maybe, get a third starter at running back. I still think there's some breakout wide receiver archetypes that we can go for here. So yeah, I think we can kind of go best player available. I don't think we have to force quarterback. There's a couple quarterbacks here that we can talk about, but again, I don't think we need to force it yet.
Definitely not.
Team 11, if you're listening, I love Frank Gore in this spot. I think there's a lot of free agent running backs that have been talked about. He's not one of them that's been talked about enough. So if you're listening, Team 11, Frank Gore looks like great value here.
Yeah, we do have 5 wide receivers through 8 rounds here, which I feel good about. Let's see what Team 11 does here.
Yeah.
And with the two flex, tight end is also available to us here as well.
Yep. This is where we start to get to this point of the draft where I also start to veer off of rankings a little bit in a managed league and start targeting upside a little bit more, because ultimately, like, the base of my team and the foundation of my team, if it's not covered in these first 7 or 8 picks, AJ Dillon off the board. So for me, one clear pick here is Elijah Moore.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone.
Did he go?
Yeah, he went at 5.5.
You missed him. Okay.
9.5.
So for me then, from an upside perspective, I think the best running back for upside would be Devin Achane from Miami. Would get some correlation with Mark Andrews for week 17, as chat noted. Tight ends, you've got Dalton Schultz, you've got Tyler Higbee. Quarterback, you've got Dak there if you want to stack him, but I think we can wait and see if that comes back around. And then in the wide receiver bucket, I think Bateman is probably the most intriguing wide receiver option. Obviously, we already have a little bit of a bet on that Baltimore passing game.
I would throw Brian Robinson into the mix.
He's picked. He's been picked.
Oh, okay.
Do you feel good about Achane?
I think
I like Bateman.
Still sign there. We have 5 seconds though. Fire, Dink.
I got nope. I got Achane. Who'd I get? I got Achane.
We meant to do that.
Wow. So we timed out on the first one and immediately took the second.
Oh no.
So we got Achane and Bateman. I apologize if the room wasn't super excited about that.
So I'm not super excited about either of those guys. I think they both have really big ceilings, which is better in managed. Bateman's foot injury has been a really weird thing, man, going back to last year. I'm not sure that he's going to start the season ahead of Flowers or Odell. I still like Bateman as a player, though, and I do think this offense will be very, very pass heavy or more pass heavy than they've been. The A-Chain stuff, I think Devon A-Chain is an awesome fit for this offense. The Dalvin Cook rumors are still out there. They still have Jeff Wilson. They still have Mostert. I think it's okay. I mean, we need to start getting some running back help. But yeah, I wouldn't be fist pumping in. I can't believe I missed Brian Robinson going. Yeah, Brian Robinson getting steamed up like crazy. 8.9 there on Brian Robinson.
Yeah, running back went really, really fast. So it got pretty thin there. In terms of other running back options that we could have considered, it was like Samaje Perine, Damian Harris.
Jerick McKinnon, I guess, was there.
I think like of those guys, if we're talking about a managed league as your third running back, like the only guy that could pay it off in a really big way, I think is A-Chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see a bunch of tight ends go here now higher than they normally would, Higbee and Dulcich, due to the tight end premium. Sam, how we just auto drafted in a 2K buy-in. How are you feeling right now?
Honestly,
so did Team 11. Team 11 timed out as well on
If we win $1 million, Dink is not entitled to any of it because we just auto timed out.
Yeah. Bateman, so I totally get the downside with Bateman, but I think at this point in the draft, especially as their sixth wide receiver, I do like taking the big cuts for upside. And I the foot stuff has been weird with him, but I do see a world where next week we get a report that, he's practicing and he's back and he shoots up here like 2 rounds. Like I think if he's fully healthy, at least earlier in the offseason, he was going more in the range of someone like Dotson, Jordan Addison, George Pickens. Like he could be a guy who has a 2-round jump. So I like the upside bet with him. The offense completely collapsed once he got injured last year. Like he was such a huge part of what they were doing early in the season before Lamar really started to struggle. So I think the upside justifies it even with the foot injury.
Yeah, where did Flowers go?
Flowers went way earlier.
Flowers was getting steamed like crazy.
Flowers was early.
And to Sam's point,
Flowers went 9.2. So same round. I shouldn't say way earlier, but was not close to where we were.
And I think that's right. Actually, I think Flowers should be going ahead of
I do too
at this point. But yeah, I think that's roughly right.
I'm definitely Flowers over Bateman now, but yeah, it's just the health. Like if Bateman's healthy, I think I have Bateman over Flowers by a little bit. So it's tough.
Yeah, some people are talking about Odell. I'd rather bet on Bateman than Odell. Like I'm not sure Odell has it in him anymore. Like is not capable. I think Bateman is capable of having some kind of breakout year.
Yeah. So Adam, looking at the players that were picked after so far, is there anybody that you really wish we would have been able to take there?
No. You're still in play for $1 million now because
good to know.
There's no one that's been taken that I'm like, man, I wish we would have had that guy.
Good to know. Yeah, I think this area of the draft is littered with pretty decent best ball bets, meaning so Jameson Williams would have been a guy that you could have taken. It's 6 weeks that you're waiting on. But what I mean is these guys like Juju, Tyler Boyd, Jacoby Myers, they're going to be out on the field a ton. You're going to get a lot of 4 for 55 games, but you're probably not winning weeks with these guys. You're just piecing things together. And those players work really well in best ball. They get you through a whole season and whatnot. But in managed leagues, you win weeks by putting up big numbers. And so a lot of the players that we're trying to take in a managed league are bigger swings just naturally. And I think this is more of a bigger swing territory. People know in chat they would have liked the Dak CD stack there. I think quarterback was in play for one of those picks. That's where you could have said maybe, but let's see what comes back around, right? Most of the teams in the league have a quarterback already. So we're in this position where sometimes you'll get a quarterback that really falls. And as Adam noted, there were a few that he felt pretty good about at this point.
Yes. And you see team.
Zamir White
in the 10th. The sixth running back for that team before their third wide receiver. That is,
to be fair, Zamir White is totally fine as a 6th running back.
That's true. No.
Just usually you want to have 6 wide receivers or so by then, but
but if you are only going 2 wide receivers, it's good to get 2 that are on the teams that'll throw the least in the NFL this season. So that's at least a good sign.
Yeah. That was a really tough turn there at 9-10. I didn't feel great about any of them. And honestly, the Pickens Burks turn wasn't slamming it in either for me. So yeah, but I think getting the later I get, the more conviction I have on some of these later round guys that I like. To me, there's a handful of guys that go in each round the rest of the way. that I actually like, and it makes a big difference. Just like if you look at like you can't have 50% of Tyreek Hill because you don't get the pick enough, but you can have 50, 60, 70% of some of these guys that go later, and I actually do that because I'm a micro take bro, and I want to be in there on the player takes.
Yeah. Especially in managed, I'm leaning in way more on player takes, where in best ball I'll be like, take more of a portfolio approach. I think here there's sort of clear good and bad picks in a way that's not as true in best ball. So I'm with you there.
Yeah. And you see Team 1 furthering to capitulate on their 0 RB start with now 5 straight running backs here for Team 1. Jacoby Myers, I think, is interesting value. To me, Jacoby and Juju are like the same bet, effectively.
Yeah.
I don't know what's gotten into Team 3, but this is going poorly for Team 3. This is really going poorly for Team 3.
I mean, it's good to. It's usually in the 11th is when I start to look for my handcuff running backs.
I mean, they've got to be a heavy favorite for Roschon Johnson in round 12.
Well, I've done these leagues enough though, where you make jokes, and come week 7, this team's gonna fucking like crush us somehow, and we're gonna be crying. So you never know.
Yeah, I think McKinnon is an interesting pick. Not as much roll upside as A-Chain, but more of a guaranteed role there
with Mahomes, with the
Mahomes,
stack there too. Like
so,
that's
people.
friendly.
Yeah, the McKinnon thing is interesting because people talk about he was phased out down the stretch last year. The dude played like 60+% of the snaps in the Super Bowl. Like, he was still the guy on the field the most with Patrick Mahomes throughout the whole playoff. So I'm kind of fading like the CEH stuff. I'm okay with Pacheco. I think he could take a jump in year 2, but man, there's a chance that McKinnon just does the same thing he's done the past couple of years, which has been sort of the lead guy down the stretch for this team. I think it's a justifiable pick for sure in the 11th round.
All right. As it gets to us here at 11 and 12, there's only one team between us that has not taken a quarterback yet. We're going to have our pick of some really good quarterbacks, in my opinion. Like, I understand that we're not going to be touching the Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Lamar tier, but I do think that quarterbacks available here can touch the Burrow, Lawrence, Watson types for sure. So I'm totally fine with that. I think we probably need to go quarterback here, even though we're only one of a few teams that hasn't taken one yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think quarterback should be one of the 2 picks here for sure. I like that Tank Bigsby pick for Team 6 as well. Yes. I think he's one of the running back is getting thinner and thinner, but he's one of those guys that has that upside, like really good offense, showed pass catching work at Auburn, as well as Travis Etienne inefficient at the goal line last year. So there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic on Tank Bigsby. I thought that was a nice pick for Team 6.
Yeah. Love Bigsby.
And Team 8 passes on a quarterback. That's interesting.
Cole Kmet. Newly minted Cole Kmet. So everybody has a quarterback, right? So the quarterbacks that I like are still the same ones that I mentioned. Tua, Dak for the CD stack, Daniel Jones, and Geno Smith.
Yep.
Those are the 4 that I like most. I think somebody asked a question about Anthony Richardson. Would not be my pick in this format where it's 20 points for 20 yards for passing point.
Yeah. Man, I kind of like we do have pairings too with all these guys, right? Maybe not all of them, but Geno, we have Kenneth Walker. Like, I think that's kind of interesting. It's just a bet on Seattle. Just their offense is amazing this year, and we kind of ping pong between huge weeks between Geno and Kenneth Walker. Tua to Chain. I can see how that works out as well if a Chain steps up as a pass catcher. I think I'd probably I'm huge on Geno this year, so I'd probably be between him and Tua as the top 2 I like here. What do you guys think?
We're on the clock. Let's not time out.
Tua and Dak would be my top 2, and if we're not taking a quarterback, Gerald Everett would be my pick.
So because we have CD, do you lean more Dak? Because in a vacuum, I think I prefer Tua, which might be a hot take.
Yeah.
But because we have CD, do you think we should take Dak?
I do. I think it just makes more sense to get the elite stack.
I agree. In a vacuum, though, I do prefer Tua.
And I'd be fine double tapping if we wanted, but if we didn't take a double tap quarterback here, Gerald Everett would be my play for a tight end. Get exposure to that Chargers offense. Get a second tight end on the squad.
Yes.
I kind of like the double tap idea. I know it's not like best ball where we don't get the full value of it, but man, it's not like there's a ton of opportunity cost. Sure, like Everett, I do like the pick, but there's going to be starting tight ends that we can get later. I'm less sure there's going to be quarterbacks with elite upside we can get later. It's an interesting spot though.
Yeah, I don't know about double quarterback. We're so unlikely to like pick the right one each week. I don't know, Dink. What do you think about double quarterback? We have about
I think it's viable. I think it's viable, but I'd probably prefer going in a different direction.
Okay. So
Yeah,
Everett,
it would be Everett or maybe Romeo Dobbs. Those would be the two options for me.
Oh, I do not.
I'm out on Dobbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys, how do you guys feel about Gerald Everett?
It would be Marvin Mims or Gerald Everett for me.
Ooh. Sam?
I like the Everett pick here.
Okay.
I think I'm Everett. I'd be Mims over Dobbs, but I like Everett better. I think
All right.
tight end premium.
Everett it is.
Kellen Moore gonna put Gerald Everett in the Dalton Schultz role, which was so much volume. No, I actually don't think he will, but I think this Chargers offense is certainly one I want to bet on. Gerald Everett's a talented guy. He has not shown a great ability to earn targets, but we do need to get some tight end depth here for sure. But yeah,
Everett's one of these guys that. So when we talk about some of the players going in this round, that like the Tyler Boyds, the Jacoby Myers, the like kind of safe-ish, like maybe not blow the top off. We're doing that, but at tight end, which is a more difficult position to find that upside. So I'd rather take those types of players at tight end than I would at wide receiver, and then kind of shoot for the moon at wide receiver with some of the picks that I'm making here. And we're going to need some tight end depth generally. The team 11, just shove it.
Team 11. I expect a portion of your winnings. Team 11. No, this run out from Marvin Mims has been awesome, and honestly, like I probably would have taken Mims there if I was solo on the clock. There, just some big breakout potential for Mims with Tim Patrick down. Cortland Sutton, obviously, subject of trade rumors, but at a minimum, Mims is going to get the wide receiver 3 role. Like Sean Payton, like first draft with the Broncos, what are you going to do? You're going to trade up for Marvin Mims when you already have Judy and Sutton. Clearly, they really, really like what they saw from Marvin Mims coming out, and I think his skill set fits pretty well with what Russell Wilson does best. So yeah, Mims probably would have been the pick there for me if I was doing this solo. Just keep getting wide receivers, but the tight end premium stuff does kind of break my brain a bit.
Yeah, that's the thing where Everett just doesn't, with tight end premium, he doesn't have to do that much to be a guy that we feel really confident with, especially during like bye weeks, just locking into our starting lineup. If he just emerges as, just a guy who we can rely on for 6 targets 50. Or whatever.
4 for 50 every week is in tight end premium is 11 points. Like you feel pretty good about it.
And these tight end breakouts are weird. Like, not that Everett has really shown anything that we should be super excited about, but man, tight end's just a weird position where Evan Ingram, kind of everyone was counting him out last year. He definitely flashed a little bit more as a rookie with the Giants than Everett ever has, but his breakout kind of came out of nowhere. Njoku took a huge jump last year after, being in Cleveland for a while. There wasn't really any reason to predict that would happen. Like, these tight end breakouts can just be random. So I like getting an offense that we feel pretty confident is going to be really good, and you never know what can happen with these tight ends.
If you guys listen to the projections podcast on Establish the Edge with Leone and Gretsch, they talked about how many plays they're projecting for the Chargers. And it's just like really hard not to project the Chargers to lead the entire league in plays per game, given the way Dallas has played in the past under Kellen Moore, given the way this Justin Herbert has played and all the offensive weaponry. So yeah, and they're obviously going to be more vertical. It just sets up well. Team 8 takes their starting quarterback here in Anthony Richardson. I think they're going to need another quarterback pretty quickly here because we don't even know for sure that Anthony Richardson is going to start week 1. I think he will, but I wouldn't bet my life on it.
Yeah, and you can see the running backs. The running backs are going to go, so we're gonna need to start pushing the running backs up the rankings a little bit. I noticed somebody in chat mentioned we have 6 wide receivers. You can only play 4. Probably in a good spot at wide receiver, just generally. So yeah, I think tight end or running back was the consideration there. Feel pretty good about Everett compared to these guys, although I could see the case for like a Condre Miller or Tajay Spears or Jerome Ford. They all have, meaningful ceilings if injuries in front of them open things up.
See, I think Tua is a great value here, but in managed, like I already have Lawrence. I don't know. You guys sound like you're more high on two quarterbacks in managed than I am. But yeah, I would have rather gotten more depth at other positions than have Lawrence and Tua on my team.
It's fine. It ultimately depends on how many quarterbacks end up getting drafted, because how deep is the wire, for that second quarterback. That user team 6 had Jalen Waddle, so it's a stack potential also. So I think it's reasonable.
Yeah. I do think I think it comes down to the draft capital too, like where we took them at 11, 12, I think is meaningfully different than taking Lawrence at 7 and then taking Tua at 12. So I think we could have justified it a bit more. Cause like, you know what, if Dak gets injured, like, do we want to be on the wire looking for Kenny Pickett to be our starting quarterback? Like when we could have just taken Tua. Like, I think there are some scenarios where we're like, oh, it'd be nice to have more upside at quarterback, but I think it definitely wasn't something we needed to do. I just think it was an option.
There's a lot of Taysom love in the chat because it's tight end premium. Just want to note, it's not like a super boost to tight end scores. You only get the premium part on the catches, which is not really how Taysom Hill scores fantasy football points. Last year, Taysom Hill had, let's see, what was it? He caught 9 balls last year. So the extra 4.5 points on his total from last season, I don't think it moves the needle a ton for Taysom Hill. I think this is the worst.
He's playing more tight end this year.
This is the worst format possible for Taysom Hill, honestly. Of all the formats, he's almost undraftable in my opinion in this format.
Quickly here, we do have to take defense and kicker here. I would never have taken them as high as team 1 goes here, 12 and 13 with Justin Tucker, 12th round and 13th round with Justin Tucker and the 49ers. But yes, we do need to take defense and kicker here at some point. I believe you're required to in this format. If I was doing a normal home league, I probably wouldn't even take defense and kicker in this draft because there's so much time before week 1 for things to happen. I want that roster flexibility to pick guys up or take shots on guys late instead of a kicker or a defense. Prinny asks, why isn't Silva here? Leone is out of town right now, and the Silva-Leone dynamic is so outrageous that we had to have them together. And so we will be doing another one of these with myself, Silva, and Leone as soon as Leone is back in town. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned for that. It's always good comedy because Leone and Silva have vastly different opinions on what picks should be at certain times. Ryan says, who do we think is the wide receiver 1 for the Giants? Might be a hot take. I actually think Isaiah Hodgins is their best wide receiver. He'll play X for them. I think Slayton will start at the other side, and Paris Campbell will be in the slot. They're going to rotate guys through. I know there's been a lot of Jalen Hyatt hype lately, but yeah, I think if I had to bet on one guy, it would probably be Hodgins, not far behind those Slayton and Paris Campbell. A lot of 2 quarterbacks going now, Cousins and Daniel Jones. I love that, man. I mean, I love Daniel Jones. Obviously was like the key to my season last year. I don't understand how he's lasted the 13th round. Geno Smith, we talked about. I really like him too. And so, like the thing for me though is you have Patrick Mahomes. Do you really need
the Mahomes team? I would never
on a Geno. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. That's just like a roster spot that you're going to use just for your bye week. And otherwise you just have to hold on to Geno your entire season. You can't, pick up that running back flyer off the waiver wire. That's tough, I think.
Yeah. Team 3 has lost his mind. Team 3 has lost his mind. Love the Silva and Leone draft theater. Yes, agreed. All right. We are getting close to the 13-14 turn here. Certainly a lot of quarterbacks that are still there as expected in a single quarterback managed league, but we are a bit thin at running back here. I don't see a ton that I like. There's a couple guys I don't want to say because I know Team 11 is listening. But yeah, Dink, any thoughts on our strategy here? 13-14 turn.
Yeah, I think running back will, definitely be at the top of the priority list. I think there's still some wide receiver options that I'm open to as well that have meaningful upside, and maybe even open to tight end if you can sniff and some tight end upside. But I think with all the quarterbacks that went, there's still Aaron Rodgers, but he has same bye week as Dak, so we don't get any real benefit there. We do have Breece Hall, but I probably would X out quarterback from the discussion at this point.
He just went.
Yeah.
One point I want to make here: we are going to be grinding waivers hard this year, and so these picks round 13 through 20, like if they don't work out, just I want to take swings, cut them, and move on. And we want to be grinding waiver wire hard here. Sam, any thoughts as we're 3 picks away here?
Yeah, I think I like going. I think we can cancel a quarterback. I think getting at least one running back on this turn. I'm curious about wide receivers. I don't see much left. Curious what Dink's thinking there for wide receiver, but I'm probably running back and taking another stab at a starting tight end here. I think makes sense too. Like I think some of these tight ends still do have some upside to be in our starting lineup, so I'm probably leaning towards running backs and tight ends here.
Yeah, I don't mind actually. Depending on what Team 11 does here, I actually don't mind double tapping running back here. He took Chuba Hubbard.
Oh baby. Okay.
The running backs that were on my list were Devin Singletary and Kenneth Gainwell. Dink, what'd you have at running back?
Those two and Raheem Mostert I understand it's 2 Dolphins running backs. Great. It's a managed league. We get to see the process play out. But those are the 3 guys to me. And the upside plays to me are Mostert and Gainwell just because they're in really good offenses. Singletary is like hey, just get us through some weeks type play. But those, I would double
tapping.
Yeah, I would double tap here for sure.
Mostert and Gainwell. Sam, any thoughts on double tapping running back?
I like that. I think we can wait on the other positions. I like double tapping running back. Those guys, I think, have upside to justify it.
Yeah.
I think we're all on Gainwell. Do you guys agree with me on Mostert over Singletary, or do you have differences of opinions there?
I'm worried about Mostert lasting the entire season at age 31. I'm worried about Dalvin on Mostert, but I mean, given we already have A-Chain, I think it sets us up pretty nicely if Dalvin does not sign there. Sam, any Mostert thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm Mostert. Maybe Singletary is a little underrated, but I just don't really see the upside on the Texans. If Pierce goes down, I think he's usable, but I see more paths to us just jamming Mostert into our starting lineup if there's a couple injuries versus Singletary. You need a lot of things to go right. You need the Texans to be good. You need Pierce to get injured. You need them not to mix in somebody else like, I don't know, Rex Burkhead or whoever else they still have. So yeah, I prefer Mostert, I think.
All right, Mostert it is. Just a second on Kenny Gainwell. The Eagles hardly gave Rashad Penny any money. The Eagles hardly gave up any draft capital for DeAndre Swift. The guy that they actually rode pretty hard in the playoffs last year and in the Super Bowl was Kenny Gainwell. And so I think there's like a lot of outcomes. We already have reports from training camp that Kenny Gainwell is going to be the 2-minute back. If he's the 2-minute back, what if he's the 3rd down back also? And what if something happens to Rashad Penny or DeAndre Swift, who have had extensive injury histories? So I love having Kenny Gainwell on the team. I know some people don't see it on Kenny Gainwell, but I love having Kenny Gainwell on my teams.
Yeah.
I like running backs in good offenses. Like running backs best paths to ceilings are just being a part of good offenses. And that's the main differentiator for me versus Singletary, where in a best ball format, honestly, I think Singletary might be a better pick because you don't know the weeks that you're going to need the 8 points from Singletary. And it'll come in handy when you need to fill gaps. But for me, I want guys that in the right scenarios, when I'm putting them in, I'm feeling like, oh, baby, I got a chance at 20. And I don't know the scenario that Devin Singletary ever inspires that confidence.
Yeah. Zay Jones is a really good pick there, shockingly, from Team 11. I very, very good pick.
Yeah, I like Zay Jones. With Gainwell, too, he, I think his stats last year might have been deflated a little bit by the fact that the Eagles weren't forced to play catch up or play from behind in like any game last year. The one game where they were kind of forced to do that was the Super Bowl, and Kenneth Gainwell outsnapped Miles Sanders pretty handily. So, if their defense gets a little bit worse this year, or maybe they just decide to say, screw it in the second half, we're going to throw, even if we're crushing teams. I think if Gainwell can earn that role over Swift and they just trust him more, he's already shown Super Bowl last year. He played over 50% of the snaps. Like, I think they do trust him in those type of game scripts to play a lot of snaps and catch some passes. So I like that 13th round. Seems like a great upside pick.
Yeah. On Singletary, I wouldn't be so sure he's going to be the number one receiving back for Houston. We talked about this with Dwayne last week on the podcast for anyone who caught the running back episode. Singletary's been really bad as a pass catcher. Like I think he's going to play that pass catching role ahead of Dameon Pierce, but I wouldn't say it for sure. So, but yeah, I think Devin Singletary is underrated as well, especially with Texans. If you think that CJ Stroud is going to be good, I think their offensive line, like we talked about with Thorne, has a chance to be really good too. Bunch of defenses going off here. It still strikes me as too early for the defense stuff here in round 14.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, again, I think Singletary versus Gainwell, I think I'm probably, not to use this as a crutch, but in best ball, I probably am taking Singletary there because I think his odds of just contributing to the roster are probably higher. But again, when we're thinking of someone we want to start, Gainwell just really jumps out to me as a guy we're going to feel more confident in.
Yeah.
One other thing to note on defensive scoring, you basically just get points for turnovers and sacks and touchdowns because you get 12 points if you get a shutout. You get 8 points if the opposing team scores 1 to 6 points, and you get 5 points if the opposing team scores between 7 to 10 points. If they clear 10 points against you, you get 0. And there's no difference between 11 points scored and 87 points scored.
Mm-hmm.
So defense is really one that I think like the quality of a defense gets vastly overrated based on some scoring systems. And this is one of them that I don't think you need a good defense to generate fantasy points. Because really, if they're allowing 35, but they're, forcing two turnovers a game, they're probably going to be just as good as somebody else.
So is the implication you want to take defenses on good offenses, like the Chiefs defense, for instance, because their opponents will presumably be throwing a bunch, lots of opportunities for sacks and turnovers. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I think those are situations that would make sense for sure.
Okay. That's interesting. I haven't gotten to the weeds of the defensive scoring yet in this tournament. Gotta read up on that.
All right. Making our way here through round 14. Harrison Butker, the second kicker off the board behind Justin Tucker. Our defense and kicker rankings will be out this week. So be sure if you're in a home league, stay tuned for that. The Zeke pick is interesting. I do think Zeke is going to sign with someone. I think it'll either be the Cowboys, the Patriots, or the Jets, most likely. It would still be a tough start for me to ever start Zeke, but, he's going to earn some pass down role and some goal line role, no matter where he goes. I did have Gallup up in the queue for us as a stack candidate there, but he is gone now.
He was the name I had considered at wide receiver that Sam was wondering about before.
Got it. I do like the Hodgins pick too. I do see the scenarios where you can feel good about starting Hodgins. That's maybe a little thin as your wide receiver 3, but
it is stacked. It is stacked.
I got to give him credit.
All right. I just continue to work on the queue here. While I'm working on that, I would be remiss if I didn't put up our QR code. 2023 draft kit on sale now. Everything you need to dominate your draft. If you're playing best ball or dynasty, or you want access during the season to Thorman's rankings, the rest of season top 150 we do every week, our dynasty trade calculator you need, Draft Kit Pro. Check it all out on the subscribe page. I think Gus Edwards is an interesting pick, man. I think Dobbins going to be fine, but if he's not, Gus could smash. I mean, Gus is a good player. He's an efficient running back. If something happens or something goes wrong with J.K. Dobbins and the team, J.K. Dobbins and his knee, I actually think Gus Edwards is a pretty interesting pick, and I would have considered him maybe over Mostert just for contingency upside in round 14, but yeah.
What were your thoughts on that Melvin Gordon signing? Because I thought that was a little odd.
They gave him more money than I thought, but $3 million was the top line on Melvin Gordon. Struck me as like, my first reaction was just camp body, but from what I've seen on recent roster projections from out of Baltimore, they do have Melvin making the team. So yeah. I also had Darnell Mooney in our queue there. If you're expecting a Justin Fields breakout, Darnell Mooney can play, man. Like, I think Darnell Mooney's actually like a very good or a plus NFL wide receiver.
I think he's pretty undervalued this year. I think in part because he had, I believe it was off-season ankle surgery, and he was a little bit late to participate. But all the reports on his health have been great, and he's now participating, and I think he's going to be totally fine. But I think a lot of the Bears passing game seems pretty overvalued to me, and really betting on a Fields breakout in a big way and more passing volume for Chicago. Mooney's price seems pretty friendly, and he's my highest exposure wide passing game option for the Bears for sure.
Yeah. Just to clarify what I said about Zeke, I meant Zeke is going to be on the field in passing situations because like one of the best things he does now is pass protect. I mean, that's what Dallas absolutely loved about him. I don't think he's going to be catching a ton of balls, but he'll be out there to block some.
I mean, Dallas liked his pass protection so much they played him at center on the most important play of the season. So, I mean, just think about how much you like the pass blocking if you're willing to play your running back at center.
So I think the Justin Ross example, and I know Sam brought it up already, is a great example of things I would do in managed, but not in best ball. I would never take Justin Ross in best ball right now. Maybe that's a bad take, but I just think there's a good chance he's inactive a lot of weeks, and I just can't have that in best ball. In managed, if it turns out he's inactive a bunch of weeks, we just drop him and move on. So like, I don't like Justin Ross that much, but if people wanted to take him, I'd be fine with it because if he's inactive week 1, week 2, whatever, just dump him and move on. Obviously, you can't do that in best ball. Coming up to our 15-16 here. So we do have, this is a 20-round draft, and we do have to take a quarterback. Kicker and a defense. So we have 4 real picks left. Sam, any thoughts on strat here for our round 15-16 turn?
Oh, there's a name that I was ready to bring up for you, Adam.
Oh, my guy. Love likely to like likely.
Yeah, I think, let's see. I think at this point, I'm okay with just not taking a second quarterback for the rest of the draft. Like, I don't really see, honestly, I'm okay with just playing the waivers game for our bye week. I don't really see a ton of options there at quarterback. There's still a ton of there's no more certainty left at, RB2s on teams. I don't think there's anybody there that's locked into being the second running back on their depth chart, but there's plenty of shots we can take at some of these guys. So I think this is the range of the draft where I kind of want to just take stabs at RB2s on teams. And then, we can find out in week 1 if we guessed right or not, and, churn these guys into the waiver wire if we guessed wrong. So I think there's definitely some RB2 guys with upside we can take here.
I do think that given that we have Debo, that Purdy is not a bad pick. I'm not sure Purdy will be better than some of the guys we get off waivers, but I do think that's at least interesting on Purdy. Dink, any thoughts on our strat here for 15-16?
Yeah, he's the only quarterback I'd probably consider at this point. People are asking about Kyler. I don't know how much patience people will have with Kyler if it starts slow, so you might be able to get another shot at him. Agree with the running backs.
Ross does go.
Yeah, agree with the running backs. Wide receiver names that I think like Khalil Shakir is a wide receiver upside name.
I was like, go ahead.
Jaden Reed is.
I was going to say
Jaden Reed.
Yeah,
because
a good one.
He was a second round wide receiver, and I'm just not a Romeo Doubs guy. I think he could easily win that, but I do worry if he's a guy that doesn't break out till late in the year. And
it would be Jaden Reed and Marquez Valdez-Scantling for me at wide receiver. If you guys want to look at other positions, that's fine. But I think
Dawson Knox would be really interesting to me too.
Yes.
As a tight end.
I think Dawson Knox has definitely been underrated. But yeah, I think one of Reed or MVS.
And then running backs are we're in the Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Pierre Strong, Cordarrelle Patterson, Josh Kelly range of things.
Yeah.
Do we want to lock in Reed as our first pick?
I'll lock in Reed as the first pick.
Okay. I think, Jaden Reed. I'll talk about him more after we make our second pick here. So yeah, I mean, running back, we have 5. I feel okay about that. It would be MVS or a tight end for me. And I think Dawson Knox is super interesting. I'm not sure his role is going to be all that different this year, even though they did draft Dalton Kincaid, and I expect him to play a lot in the slot.
Yeah,
for me, it's Ferguson is also something I'll throw out there because we have Dak, and I think if he's just in the Dalton Schultz role, that could be pretty nice too. So I think I like Knox as well. My vote might be Ferguson just because of the stacking equity, but I'm good with Knox if you guys want to go in that direction.
I'd vote Knox first, then Ferguson, then Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah, I think Knox also. Like, I don't like, he was going in round 12 or 11 last year, and I'm not sure his role is going to be any different.
Dawson Knox is our tight end 3.
Yeah, I think he's a great value at this point.
So just circling back on Jaden Reed, I do think they'll open the year in 2 wide receiver sets with Christian Watson and Dobbs. To Sam's point, by any metric last year, Dobbs was one of the worst wide receivers in all of football, and they used a second-round pick on Jaden Reed. It's just like a bet against Dobbs, and a bet on Reed would be one that I think is good in round 15. So I like that. On the Knox thing, I'm not sure Kincaid is going to line up in line at all. Like, he might not play in line whatsoever, and they're still going to have to have an inline tight end. And so Dawson Knox has had a pretty big red zone role for a long time. Again, tight end premium, and so we wanted to have at least 3 tight ends. I think that's fine as well. My MVS take is simply, you're going to get 5 targets from Patrick Mahomes every game for the whole season. How bad can it be, right? Like, it's never a bad start. MVS, he's going to get 5 targets from Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to get 8, but he's not going to get 1. He's going to get like 4 or 5 every single game is MVS. So yeah, Hunter Henry I think is a good pick too, and Trey McBride I like also. So yeah, there was definitely some options there, and that's one thing about tight end this year. You can get starters late. Luke Musgrave is a starter. Irv Smith is a starter. Laporta is a starter. Everett is a starter. Conklin, I think, is a starter. Hunter Henry is a starter. McBride, until Ertz gets back, if he gets back, is a starter. So I think it's somewhat unique this year. The late round tight ends are at least starters.
Chat was pretty excited about the DJ Shark training camp reports. We're pretty high on DJ Shark from a rankings perspective. For me, it's more like the type of team that we've built. I don't think we need the steady role of DJ Shark. We're hoping for like a really big breakout, but you could argue that, Shark has flashed that type of potential in terms of his deep ball success and efficiency. Did you consider DJ Shark there at all, Adam?
Yeah, I don't have a great feel for Carolina's wideout. Like, we are completely writing off Adam Thielen. Like, that's basically what's happening. That's why we're so high on DJ Chark above market, because we are totally dusting Adam Thielen, which I think is right. But I don't know. I mean, if we're wrong and Adam Thielen is actually decent, then Chark is going to look really bad where we have him ranked. So given the wide receiver room that we had, I think I prefer Reed and Knox there. But you could have convinced me Hunter Henry over Knox. That's when you could have convinced me on for sure.
Yeah. It's just the upside of the Bills offense. I think Hunter Henry's role is probably a little more locked in than Knox's. I mean, they both seem pretty locked in to me. But
I think their role's the same. But one guy is in the Bills offense and one guy's with, Mac Jones and the Patriots.
Yeah. A lot of people are on Terrace Marshall also. I know there's still some Thielen stands out there. Then you got the Shark people. Like, yeah. So the upside in selecting a third tight end is we have 2 flex spots just for those people just joining us. You can start 3 tight ends anytime you want, and it's tight end premium, and that's why you see on the board a lot of people having 3 tight ends, a lot of people reaching for tight ends. Why are we so low on Terrace Marshall? I mean, his underlying stats as a pro have not been good, and so that's why we end up with this big Chark projections, because like we're low on Marshall and we're low on Thielen. I think Hayden Hurst is an interesting pick there too, if you think both Terrace Marshall and Adam Thielen are dust. But yeah. All right, we got 4 picks left here. If you guys have any questions about anything at all, you can put them in the chat. We're going to end out taking kicker and defense here super late, so we really only have 2 real picks left.
Your boy Marquez might make it all the way back at him.
That would be insane. I mean, that's ridiculous.
He actually routinely in the best ball drafts on FFPC, he's maybe the most undervalued wide receiver, period. You routinely can get him in like 15, 16, 17 in best ball. And in best ball, he's even better.
Smash, yeah.
Because you don't have to worry about the weeks that he's, airballing.
Yeah.
And manage, that's the risk. Even though it's a Patrick Mahomes offense, there are air balls for MVS in there during the course of the season.
Undoubtedly. Yeah, Hayden Hurst is a good pick. Like, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of starters. Ferguson's probably a starter. Hurst is definitely a starter. Like, there's a lot of starters available late at the tight end spot. Quentin Johnston thoughts. Yeah, I thought we could have taken Quentin Johnston over George Pickens or Burks if we wanted to. I do think to start the season, he will be behind Josh Palmer. I think. I wouldn't say that for sure, but it'll happen quickly. I think Quentin Johnston's going to have a real role quickly. And yeah, I think he's a good player and he was first round draft capital. I think it would have been totally fine to take him over Pickens or Burks. Team 11 will take MVS. I agree. That's a stone cold lock.
Yeah.
Kicker, dome teams with passive coaches, right? Yeah. Like I said, our rankings will be out this week, but certainly weather. And honestly, like in a league like this, I'm probably streaming my kicker most likely anyways each week. And I'm looking for weather, good implied team totals, teams that are inept in the red zone, passive coaches, all that stuff can play into it. I didn't know there was a debate. I had a tweet and some people push back, but I mean, we had the data in the manifesto. I mean, in best ball, if you have a dead player, it's just massive hit to your EV. MVS airball in the Super Bowl. Yes, I know. 33% MVS. Love it. What do we think of the Allen Robinson revival hype? He's competing with Calvin Austin for a slot role. Like if he can't win that, forget it. So I take some last round Allen Robinson.
When you're talking about like best ball and avoiding dead roster spots, he's like the prototypical guy for me because there's not a lot of wide receiver competition after him on that depth chart, as you alluded to. And so he's probably just going to be out on the field a ton. And okay, at least I've got a guy that's out there running routes and maybe I can, run into a touchdown every once in a while. For a 20th round pick, that's awesome in best ball.
Dustin says he just wants the DFS package. If you just want the DFS package, that price is up now. You can get in season only right now.
MVS goes. Finally.
Yes, MVS goes. Don't worry, I have more wide receivers for you guys. Relax.
I got a couple too.
Everybody's
I think there's some interesting ones.
I'll tell you something, guys. I've got some nasty running back dart throws that we're going to talk through. So
I might throw some. Oh, that was one of the wide receivers I was thinking of. Jalen Hyatt.
Jalen Hyatt's the ideal type of pick at this type of range and in these drafts.
Yeah, not similar to Quentin Johnston, but I do think Jalen Hyatt will start the year behind Slayton and Hodgins, but could be very quick for him to ascend the depth chart if he keeps playing like he is in camp right now. All right, Dink, almost on the clock here for picks 17 and 18. Any thoughts on overall strat?
I think we should get a dart throw running back potentially, but I think taking more wide receivers is fine too. This is an area of the draft where you would draft guys that like these are our last two skill player picks, and then we have to take kicker and defense. These are likely going to get cut, but you could potentially hit a home run. And so the name I'm going to bring up, this is ugly, Tyrion Davis-Price. Some really good camp reports on Tyrion Davis-Price. Some concerns about Eli Mitchell, who's been battling some injuries early on. He's in a competition with Jordan Mason as well. So look, he's got to climb a depth chart. But we know if you get carries for the 49ers, you are a valuable fantasy football option. So he's a guy I would not mind considering as a running back dart throw. The other guys in this range for running backs are like Cordarrelle Patterson. I love Donovan Peoples-Jones as a wide receiver, though. He would be my favorite pick at this point by a wide margin.
I like taking a running back dart thrower in San Francisco because the Eli Mitchell rumors are out there and he's banged up right now. I actually think that Mason is ahead of TDP right now, but I don't know if that's going to stick. Sam, TDP or Mason?
If we have to pick one, I'd go TDP with 5 seconds here.
Oh, we had to take one. We're taking one. So now the wide receiver of your guys choosing. I would vote Donovan Peoples-Jones, but Curtis Samuel's great. Darius Slayton, good by me. The Michael Wilson camp buzz is good. Like
my favorite wide receiver is Curtis Samuel. I think he is a actual good NFL player when healthy. I'm not sure we can say that about everyone else, but I'd be fine with DPJ too. Any thoughts, Sam?
I think Curtis Samuel's better. I think I'd go DPJ just for the chance that, Elijah Moore wasn't good last year. He's kind of a smaller guy, could be slot only. DPJ could just be starting wide receiver.
DPJ had a rapport with Deshaun Watson late in the season too. Like they clicked late in the season.
I think I'd be DPJ, but I think it's close.
That's fine. I'm fine with DPJ.
Done. I love that turn. And Tyrion Davis-Price most likely is not on this roster at the beginning of the season, most likely scenario. But we get camp to watch it play out. And he is a guy they invested a good draft pick in before. We saw Eli Mitchell kind of come the year after people thought he might come. I think that could happen with Tyrion Davis-Price too.
For sure. And also, like, Christian McCaffrey, you saw how many base carries Eli Mitchell got when he was healthy last year. Like, they do not want Christian McCaffrey to get 25 carries in a game when they can help it. So, yeah. A lot of people were stumping for Malik Davis here. Dink,
I really think the Cowboys are going to sign somebody. But we'll see. I mean, I think that's my biggest concern. That depth chart could get cloudier. I think the San Francisco depth chart could only improve from here, is what I would kind of say. But yeah.
I also had Khalil Shakir in my queue, just in case he's just like comes out in week 1, has an every down slot role or something crazy like that. We could have gone Brock Purdy too, which I thought would have been somewhat interesting, but we can probably get someone Purdy-esque off waivers if needed.
Yeah. I think other situations there that would have been interesting. We're taking a stab on the Colts situation. I do think, in all likelihood, Jonathan Taylor is going to be healthy and back in week 1, but I think a stab on, Kenyon Drake or Evan Hull or whoever you think it's going to be there would be interesting this late as well.
Yeah. I think on the Jordan Mason versus TDP stuff, for people who want to try to emulate this in some drafts of their own, I do think Jordan Mason is slightly ahead now, but I also think TDP is the more talented player. So we'll just have to see. Like this kind of pick here, like Deneric Prince would not do in best ball. I love that pick in managed. Yeah. Like that's a really good example there. Are we sure we actually have to take kicker and defense? Mandatory? Okay.
Yeah.
I would not, like, Yahoo doesn't make you in those leagues. I would never take one if you don't have to.
Yeah.
I also for those of you out there who like to angle shoot in your home leagues, I also often will not even start a kicker or a defense when games kick off on Sunday. I will wait to see if I need a kicker or a defense as the 1:00 games are unfolding, and then add one off of the waiver wire on Yahoo where like things don't lock in leagues that things don't lock until the games start. I think that's like a small micro edge that you get in terms of being able to hold that extra roster spot through games, because the 1:00 guys can lock on your bench in Yahoo and you can still cut them if you didn't use them in your starting lineup.
Yeah. Dwayne McBride, I know people taking. I haven't taken Dwayne McBride.
He's already gone. He went long ago.
Okay, but just on Dwayne McBride, it's just I prefer Ty Chandler just because I think he can have some standalone value by himself. Dwayne McBride, I don't know, man. That one is real thin to me. All right,
you ready for defenses and kickers, Adam?
Yes. Well, we're gonna be streaming regardless, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the week 1 schedule here. As we do our very professional research for kickers and defense. So generally for defense, like I would just go based on schedule. Like last year, I had Eagles defense in a bunch of season-long leagues, just an absolute smash. Look at the schedule. It's so soft. They're going to be playing from ahead a bunch, or you think they're going to be playing from ahead a bunch. I mean, Eagles went on a bye, and I didn't drop their defense in a home league, and I never do that. It's like I was carrying the Eagles defense through the bye. It was so good. This year, the teams with the softest schedules to me by far are Saints and Falcons. Like a massive, massive outlier soft schedule for those two teams versus everyone else. In week 1,
I'm lining up some defenses in our queue based on week 1 stuff.
Yeah, in week 1, the Saints host the Titans. In week 1, the Falcons host the Panthers. Yeah, there goes Evan Hull. I think that's a good pick too. The same guy who took Dwayne McBride took Evan Hull. Agree with Sam that like if something goes completely haywire with Jonathan Taylor, Evan Hull could have a role. His calling card in college was indeed pass catching.
Yeah.
Chiefs defense goes. All right. Who is doing waivers for this team? Certainly not me, and certainly not Dink, and that only leaves Mr. Sam. Mr. Sam. Do the waivers. No, Sam is going to be contributing this year as part of the ETR team for the first time. So hopefully you guys got a little taste of him tonight. We'll have much more announcements soon on what Sam's role is going to be this coming season. But yeah, super excited to have him on board. Sam, give the people your Twitter so they can follow you. And by the way, if you guys are serious about fantasy football, you need to be on Twitter. I understand people are tilted with Twitter. Yeah. If you want to have the best information the fastest, you just have to be on Twitter. So go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or X, I guess, as we're calling it now.
No. We're still calling it Twitter. We're still calling it Twitter.
Yeah, you can find me at Sherman_FFB. Yeah, find all my content there for the moment.
Cool. But, at Adam Levitan for me, at Drew Dinkmeyer for Dink, at Establish the Run. Also, again, if you're serious about fantasy football, you have to be on Twitter. Just is what it is. Yeah, don't come at me with this. Don't. Cuz says you mean X. No, I do not mean X. You know, you just gotta wait for this stuff to cycle back. You know, Facebook changed to Meta. They changed their stock ticker to Meta. Guess what? They're back to Facebook already. You know, so just wait. Just give it a little bit of time. Everything will cycle back.
The other thing with Elon, you just never know if things are legitimate or a troll. Like, even though he's rebranded the actual app and everything, it still could be a troll. That like in 3 weeks he's like, haha, we've never been X. We were really Twitter the whole time. So you just never know. So just stick with what you know.
Yeah. Some of these picks back here, like Puka, speculation that Puka, if Cooper Kupp were to miss time, would play the Cooper Kupp role. I don't know if I buy that. There is no such thing as a Cooper Kupp role. Like, you can't just slide someone into that. Izzy Abanikanda, I like him. I played him in preseason the other night. And if Brees misses time, maybe Izzy gets in there. But I think they'll have more faith in Michael Carter and Zonovan Knight. Yeah, Terrace Marshall goes there. Devontae Parker is like a best ball pick to me. You know, he's going to be out there and get you, 4 for 40 a bunch. And that's actually salvageable in best ball. In this format, not as much.
Yeah, agreed. He's kind of like the Patriots version of Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I'd rather just have the Browns version of Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think.
Jake Moody goes, who the 49ers somehow used, I believe, a third round actual draft pick on to the 49ers. So Jake Moody off the board.
I'll be honest, I have no idea. What team is Keaton Mitchell on? It's the first time I've seen that name. Baltimore.
He's a Raven, yeah.
Yeah. He's the guy who was probably most impacted by Melvin Gordon in the signing.
I think he's in a battle. It's like Keaton Mitchell versus Melvin Gordon for one roster spot, most likely.
Because Gordon has no guaranteed money, even though that headline was $3 million, right? So
right.
I guess that's the thing is you can justify like any of these picks and manage at this point. Like I definitely see the logic for that.
I mean, we justified TDP, so like who are we to judge?
The Young Ho goes, Young Ho Koo.
There's one defense I'd be pretty I can never say I'm fired up about a defense, but mildly excited for if it falls to us.
God. 53% Devontae Parker for David. Have less sex, David. I mean, Jesus Christ. 53% Devontae Parker.
I'm at like 31%, so I'm not quite there.
Interesting question.
Isaiah Spiller take. I think I'd take Josh Kelly before Isaiah Spiller, personally.
Kelly was certainly ahead last year. I don't. Round 19 starting tight end there for team 10.
That's a nice pick.
That's what happens when you take your defense in round 17.
True.
Team 3 is 7,000 to 1 to make the playoffs. You might be right. I'll have to do the math on that. All right. We're up next here. We just need a kicker and a defense to end this thing out. Obviously, there are a ton of options. I know Washington D, as Kneds points out, is home against the Cardinals in week 1. That's certainly an option. I don't believe the Saints
Team
or
11's going to
Falcons.
snipe. Team 11's probably going to snipe them now.
Yeah, that's fine. More power to him.
Yep.
I think Denver defense I had up there. Denver plays week 1 Vegas at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then Atlanta plays, as you mentioned, Carolina at home. I think those, or Minnesota, who plays Tampa Bay at home. Those would be the 3 defenses I'd be picking between.
Yeah. I think Minnesota or Atlanta would be my favorites there.
Okay.
I'd go. Yeah, I think Minnesota would be mine. Just
I mean, if the blowouts are worth so much, like they could certainly,
could
certainly blow out.
Minnesota it is. And then for kicker stuff, I had, based on our ranks, Jason Myers, Seattle's kicker, Jason Sanders, Miami's kicker, Brandon McManus, Jacksonville's kicker.
I mean, I'm a Seahawks bro.
Seahawks home against the Rams in week 1 seems like a fine spot. Sanders on the road against the Chargers in a shootout, and McManus is at Colts. Fine with Myers though.
Yeah, it's got to be Myers.
Perfect. Bing bang boom.
Yes, that is our 20 round draft here in this managed 2K buy-in FFPC main event team. In review, I really liked what we did at the beginning. It got a little bit hairy for me. I just didn't love anything in this 6, 7, 8, 9 range, but I think we're going to need at least 1 or 2 of these guys in that range to hit. But I think we got some pretty good values here at the top, and I like what we did at the end. We're going to be grinding the waiver wire very hard. Sam, how do you feel about how this one turned out?
I like it a lot. I think we got 2 running backs that, talent wise could be, top 5 running backs in terms of talent in the NFL. So I like that a lot. And I think we got enough cracks at wide receiver to go along with Mark Andrews. So I like it. It's a pretty balanced roster overall. And I think good mix of upside at all the positions. I think the one thing you can nitpick maybe is quarterback. I'm not sure we have the upside to match the elite quarterback teams. I could see that criticism, but if we taking CD with the first pick overall, we need Dak to have a big year. So I think it's still in play for us to take down the top price here.
Dink,
did we just win $1 million, or am I crazy?
I think there's a chance. I think this is an advanced team for sure. Like I think we can get out of this. We'll see injuries happen in fantasy football, but I really like where we stand compared to the other teams in this league. I would say, we're firmly in the top 3 teams in this league from where we drafted right now, and feel like the Kenneth Walker value, the Breece Hall value, when we were concerned about running backs out of this 12 spot, I think shaped up really nicely. And then while all these other running backs were going, 2 of the guys that I'm highest on this season for best ball exposure and just the way I like to take running backs, I like to take running backs on offenses that I believe are going to be good. Gainwell and Mostert, and having Mostert with Achane and having that Dolphins running back bet that, like, in a weekly managed league, we'll get to choose. We'll get the information, I think is great.
Okay. Thanks everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. If you hit the subscribe button, we're going to have a bunch more drafts. We'll have Leone and Silva bickering at each other doing one of these drafts soon. We also have a ton more podcasts coming up. The podcast schedule is completely out of control. I have sworn off sex for the rest of August because all I do is podcasts and videos all day. And so be sure you're subscribed to the channel. Some of that will hit the podcast feed. Find the podcast on iTunes, anywhere podcasts are found. Establish the Run. Here on YouTube, hit the subscribe channel. And again, we put in so much effort to the QR code. We are tech lording. 2023 Draft Kit is available now. Again, the bundle, which combines Draft Kit Pro with in-season price, will be going up on Friday. Sleepers and busts from our staff are indeed up now. Rankings for 24 different formats are up now. Silva's top 150, all his team previews, tons more. Appreciate everyone being here for Wow, maybe do you think people watching this back actually want to see the last 3 picks? We better stay on for the last 3 picks. They're going to be like, "Why did you not let me see the last 3 picks?"
I think they want to see if Team 1 drafts a third defense.
Okay.
I think that's what everybody is hanging on the seat of their pants.
Yeah. Just KC and SF is a little thin at defense. I
Yeah.
think you probably need a third in this build.
Mike notices that Team 3 took their wide receiver 3 in round 14. Yes, it was not a good effort from Team 3. There's no doubt about that.
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones is Mr. Irrelevant here.
That's the upside swing you need to finish off the draft.
All right. That is going to do it for this FFPC Main live stream. Appreciate y'all being here. This was a ton of fun. For Drew, for Sam, I'm Adam. Good luck, everybody.